In America, everyone counts, and the 2020 census is how that great promise is kept. Respond today online, by phone, or by mail, and help inform hundreds of billions in funding for education, health programs, and more. Shape your future. Start at 2020census.gov. Biden did drop a new ad today. Let's go ahead and get that ad. There were a couple of ads. One dropped today, one yesterday. The first one speaks to this particular issue of what African Americans go through in this country. Again, it is an ad you will never see Donald Trump or the Republicans drop, folks. If you know, that's not it, folks. Y'all don't have it queued up right. So get the right ad up, please. And it was, when I saw it, I said, you know what? This is exactly the kind of ad that you should have on this day. I'm just going to go ahead and play it myself, folks. And so it is called "We're Listening." It's called "We're Listening, Joe Biden." Go ahead and take it. Take it from my iPad, please.
Wake up knowing that they could lose their life in the course of just living their life.
Part of the point of freedom is to be free from brutality, from injustice, from racism, and all of its manifestations.
We have to let people know that we not only understand their struggle, but they understand the fact they deserve to be treated with dignity. They gotta know we're listening.
Reforming policing in this country means creating a national standard on use of force and conditioning federal funds for police departments on adoption of that standard. It's about reining in qualified immunity. We hold police officers accountable.
We can't turn away. Now is the time for racial justice. I believe with every fiber in my being, we have such an opportunity now to change people's lives for the better. It's about who we are, what we believe, and maybe most importantly, who we want to be.
Now, that was the ad that dropped today that dealt with that issue. Now, there was one that dropped yesterday that spoke to the issues of housing in this country, something that's important as we're dealing with massive evictions taking place across the country. Watch this one, folks, and we're going to comment when we come back.
There are streets that run through American cities that have served as dividing lines between communities for generations. On one side of the line, a predominantly white neighborhood. On the other side, a predominantly black neighborhood. If you live on one side of that line, your family is 10 times as wealthy than if you lived on the other side of that line. On one side, your home is valued at tens of thousands of dollars more than if you live on the other side of that line. A big part of what has kept black Americans from having the same opportunities as white Americans have been those red lines. And sadly, they aren't gone yet. So how do we get here? Those dividing lines were drawn on the maps of American cities starting back in the 1930s. Following the Great Depression, the Homeowners Loan Corporation created maps of major American cities. That established predominantly white neighborhoods as areas for better investment than predominantly black neighborhoods. They marked red lines around black neighborhoods, establishing them as hazards. While white families were able to own homes and acquire wealth, black families were unable to secure the loans they needed to buy a home and live out the American dream. In 2017, a study showed that only 43% of black adults in the U.S. owned a home. That's compared to 72% of white adults. We need to change that, and we can. We need to make it so that no matter what side of that street you grew up on, no matter if you're black or if you're white, you're able to live in a good house, and your family's able to build wealth for generations. That's why Joe Biden's proposing that we eliminate all regulations at the state and local level that perpetuate racism, that we create a $15,000 new homeowners tax credit to bring in people who've historically been left out of housing opportunities. Joe will make sure that we hold financial institutions accountable for discriminatory practices in lending. Joe will establish a rental tax credit to ensure that no family spends more than 30% of their income on rent. Every kid deserves to grow up in a good home in a safe neighborhood. And most importantly, it'll ensure that a red line doesn't determine your opportunities in life. We can tackle our country's housing crisis together and give every American the housing security they deserve.
Reese, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on those two ads.
I thought that they were great ads. I think that ultimately Black voters want to hear some sort of economic agenda, some sort of housing agenda. Climate change is another issue, education. So I do like the substance of the Redlining Act. I did recognize Kamala's Rent Relief Act as part of that 30% tax credit. So I do believe that the Biden-Harris administration is completely sincere and will take swift action to close the home ownership gap for Black Americans. And the other ad I thought was good as well. But honestly, I do think that the more powerful message is the economic agenda, particularly with Black male voters. I think that the economic agenda will resonate more. I would like to see them harp on that a little bit more instead of, I don't want to say instead of, but I would say in addition to this focus on police brutality. Because to be honest, I don't think that we're going to be able to convince the Black community, for good reason, that there's going to be this massive change in police accountability. But at least if people feel like I'll get a home or I'll get a job, I'll get health care, that would be something that's more persuasive.
Well, as we discussed yesterday, Greg, the reality is that if every Black person, criminal justice is not the #1 issue. And so when you're talking to Black people, you got to talk to Black people like you talk to white people. You talk to Black people about homes, you talk to Black people about the environment, you talk to Black people about health and safety and any number of things. And so you have to have multiple messages when you're talking to African Americans.
It's true, and that's the conventional wisdom. I couldn't agree with Reese more, including your previous comment, sis. You know, there's a low bar for Joe Biden, and we hope he doesn't trip over it. He didn't trip over today, and that's good. But, you know, the Democrats are hewing to a time-honored tradition, one that might make them lose this election. This whole idea of pursuing a kind of triangulation strategy where you're just Black enough to try to attract those middle-class, working-class Black voters who are more likely to vote, but you don't offend those imaginary white voters who are never coming back, because if only white people voted in American elections, the Democrats would probably never win another national election. That having been said, you know, I agree with Reese. I mean, we have to deal with this question of police brutality, and it isn't an issue for every Black person until they're stopped by the police. But the idea, and Reverend Barber says this so often, you know, saying the word poor, that is a 4-letter word in American politics. It's the third rail of American politics. You know, most Black people worried about whether they're going to get put out. Roland, this can't be over stressed, what you just said. There are people being put in the streets. They're not worried about being able to get a $15,000 tax credit to get they're worried about their stuff is going to be in the street in September. And so one of these days, the Democratic Party or some political party is going to address the vast majority of people in this country who are the poor. And the Democrats seem to be determined to go down this road. And once again, there's 100,000 people in Kenosha, 12,000 of them are Black. Donald Trump, to put the point that Erica said earlier, Donald Trump got that election close enough to steal in Wisconsin. He won by 23,000 votes with a combination of voter suppression, spoiling cast ballots and mail-in ballots. Right. And they're going to try to get it close enough to steal again. And the people who are going to put him over the top aren't those people who were going to vote anyway. You got to grow this electorate. That he's rallying his troops. I don't know when the Democrats are going to decide to rally theirs.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, the folks at Ceek.com, Black-owned company founded by Mary Spiel. They've had a couple of great products we want you to check out. This is their virtual reality headset, which, of course, allows for you to watch the content on Ceek.com right through your phone. Check it all out in virtual reality. In addition to that, you can also look at 360-degree video on your phone as well. And so that's what this particular headset is. You just simply take your phone, drop it right into the headset, and that's it. Then, of course, you have their 360-degree 4D headphone, which is right here. Of course, Bluetooth enabled, tremendous bass sound. You hear the sound all all around. Also, gamers usually got a headset used for that as well. And so you can get one or both of these products or subscribe to Ceek.com by going to their website, Ceek.com, CEEK.com, with the promo code. Come on, guys, show it, RMVIP2020, RMVIP2020. And so go to Ceek.com. And so we certainly appreciate Ceek being a partner here at Roland Martin Unfiltered, and of course being a sponsor of our bi-weekly tech segment.